Hey there, this is Delegate Tia Price, and this is my update for the day. We've gotten quite a few questions about the budget and the budget process, and so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Um, and also just updating you as to how progress is being made on some of the House bills and Senate bills. So, as you'll remember, the outgoing governor gives an introduced budget, which is just like any other bill. It's a big bill, but it's a House bill or a Senate bill. And then once it comes to session, in the House, we make amendments to it. In the Senate, they make amendments to it. And then there has to be a point where the bill becomes identical between two houses. So right now, we are at the point where we have taken the Governor Northam's introduced budget that was presented or really introduced to the world December of last year. And then through the appropriations process, we got House Bill 29, House Bill 30, then Senate Bill 29, Senate Bill 30. Those are different. And so once they've officially passed, I think the votes were on Thursday. And so now the process will be in conference once the official conferences are established. But of course, budget negotiations have been going on this whole session. And so the House will, the Speaker will appoint conferees, and so will the Senate. And those are the people that will, ostensibly sit at the negotiating table in order to figure out how we're going to get to those identical documents. And so there are a lot of good things in the Senate budget that I think folks are trying to fight to hold on to. And then there's some not so good things in the House budget that we're trying to either get rid of or improve. And so you'll want to keep watching. The other thing is when bills pass, if they have a fiscal impact, which means they cost the state money or they save the state money, either way, when those bills pass, they have to be included in the negotiations for the budget. And so it'll be really, really interesting to make sure that all of the priorities that you're looking to be funded are funded. And so stay tuned, and you can, of course, send messages to the Appropriations Committee. You can send me messages about things that you want to make sure your hard-earned tax dollars are going to. One of the things that you've heard me talk about and that I've talked about on the floor too, how we tax people and how we give tax rebates or relief is a part of the budget negotiation process. And so right now in the introduced budget and the Senate budget, there was a provision and funding to allow for the earned income tax credit to be refundable, which means if you are low income, that your tax refund would be even bigger because you don't have to leave money on the table. And so the introduced budget had it at 15%. Well, the Senate budget has it at 20%, which is huge. And as you've heard me say, the folks that make the least actually spend a larger percent of their check in taxes. They are taxpayers. But in the House budget, doubling the standard deduction and the tax rebates literally leave behind about 640,000 families. In Newport News alone, I think it was like 21,000 families. The tax dollars are going to help everybody but them, but they pay a larger amount of their check in taxes. It's just unconscionable to me. And I cannot believe that we're having to have this conversation where we're just leaving behind people. But I'm glad to know that the Senate Democrats, at least, really believe in making sure that if we're going to give tax rebates and tax relief, that it goes to all taxpayers and not just some. And so that's been a really big sticking point for me. And if I'll drop the link, but if you go to the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis website, you can type in your locality or the district you live in and see like how many people we're talking about. 640,000 people is a lot of people that we would be leaving behind, and they live all around the Commonwealth. So I made a floor speech about it when we were talking about the standard deduction. I also talked about it when we were, voting on the budget on Thursday, and Delegate Vivian Watts also talks about what a detriment to the Hampton Roads area, in addition to Richmond and Northern Virginia, getting rid of the gas tax would be. And so there's been talk about the grocery tax, and uh, Democrats have done great work in order to make sure if we do get rid of the grocery tax, that localities and schools, school divisions will still have the funding that they need in order to operate, right? We're not just going to get rid of a tax and then leave people high and dry, which some other people's plans did, but because of Delegate Watts's leadership and working across the aisle, we eventually should see that if we get rid of the gas tax, that the localities and the schools will not take a hit and take that huge impact that would have crippled them, basically. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the gas tax. And as y'all know, I know people from Newport News that go to, Virginia Beach and Norfolk for work, and folks that even travel from Newport News to Richmond. And so it's really important that we keep transportation projects going, but we also keep transportation funded. And so we stood firm in voting against getting rid of that tax. And so, I mean, I get it, a lot of things are expensive now, and we want to make sure that life is as affordable as possible. But it's really interesting when I hear people that want to cut taxes, cut taxes, cut taxes, but don't want to raise wages. And so, we'll continue to have those conversations and to make sure that we are really and truly helping all Virginians in the policies that we're making. So that's a little bit of a interesting conversation. It's not tax reform and tax policy is usually not what's at top of mind for folks, but the more and more I'm learning about it, even spoke out against it in 2019, the more and more I'm learning about it, it is becoming clear that how we tax people and our voting rights are so foundational to everything else. And so I'm really enjoying being able to be your voice here and speaking out to make sure that we're all included in the relief, especially as the pandemic has just hit everybody, so hard. So that's a little update on the budget. I'll just make sure that you all have the link to watch the discussion to some of the points that we made. The conversation was quite long. Friday we went pretty. I mean Thursday we went pretty late into the evening with the budget conversation, as we should. That document is a huge, huge document where we are committing your hard-earned tax dollars, and so we should have a long conversation about how we're doing that and take that seriously. So today on the floor, we had some of the Senate bills that had passed out of the Senate. And so once they, pass out of the House, they are now headed to the governor. And then we also had more House bills with Senate amendments. So you'll want to make sure that you keep track with it, because here's what can happen. You can absolutely love a House bill, and then it goes over to the Senate, and then it's like, oh, I don't know if I like that amendment. And then it comes back to the House, and we either accept it or reject it. And so if we accepted an amendment to a bill that changes the nature of the bill for you, then you might want to, figure out how to change course and how you're talking about the bill, because the bill has changed since it was first introduced. And then also there might have been a bill that you didn't like, but a Senate bill or a House bill could get an amendment in the other chamber, and now it's a better bill. So sometimes you'll see us change our votes. We're like, wait, I thought those bills were identical, but they were no longer identical because of an amendment or something happened. So watching our votes, and then at the end, those bills that went to conference. Remember, if it passes out of the House one way and then the Senate amends it, it has to, and then if they reject the amendment, sorry, let me start over. If I have a House bill, it passes out of the House, then goes to the Senate and picks up an amendment, any single change at all, that comes back to the House, and the House has to accept or reject the amendment. If we accept the amendment, then that bill gets passed and goes to the governor. If we reject the amendment, then that bill goes into conference and will come back. So some of these bill numbers, you're going to say, did they already vote on this? And yes, but it's still in process. And so there might be compromises being made, negotiations being made. There might have been spelling errors that were found. There might have been, that's not what I intended, like all kinds of reasons reasons why something might get fixed. But when we stand up on the floor and we talk about what the amendment does, then that should help explain why we're accepting or rejecting. So I hope that helps. A little wonky for this end of week update, but it has been a busy week. And I will just say, as you're watching, the next 2 weeks are going to be jam-packed with bills coming out and more budget conversations. So stay tuned. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know. Follow me on social media for more updates. But I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a restful weekend. I haven't checked the weather, but if it's nice enough to go outside, make sure you get some sun. But thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.